And you might say that will cost you some additional amount of money. So those are the kinds of things that you should be certainly thinking about in the early stages. And organizations, again, to use the McKinsey example, I keep referring to McKinsey for two reasons. One, undoubtedly, they are the best in the world in terms of what they do, particularly at the strategy level. And I also happen to have the most in-depth knowledge about what goes on within McKinsey, which is why I talk about it. When the time came for them to really go big, they started establishing what they call research and information centers. In Gurgaon area in Delhi, at least when I was with them about 10 years ago, the R&I team was about 1,300 people. So on any given day, on any given topic, they will come up with the right set of information. So if I am trying to, again, ask them to benchmark whether we should be spending this much on technology, or I am interested in introducing Coca-Cola in China, for example, if they don't have it already, they will come up with the data that says the market for that kind of a sweet water drink is going to be X. This is the population, this is the demography of people from, 15 to 40 who may be interested in this kind of a product, and the concentration of those people. So all of that kind of data can be very quickly gathered, and they then become part of the benchmarking study that we may be doing for a company. There are other tricks or other ways in which the relationship is strengthened or built. For example, you could be offering a 1-hour course on employee development or high performance teams. How do you make people to be very high performing? In that 1-hour training or 2-hour or 3-hour, you are not going to share all of the details, but you share enough of the details that anyone attending that kind of a course or a class, you've piqued their interest. In marketing, there is a term called AIDA. A-I-D-A. A stands for attention. The topic that you come up with and the headline or the brief summary you provide might be attention gathering or attention catching. The next I stands for interest. Once you've caught somebody's interest, somebody's attention, the attention turns into interest. And then a desire to want to be part of that, or to want to have that product, or to want to benefit from it. And then finally, A for action. So AIDA is a marketing principle that, again, if we apply the right techniques, we could be benefiting from something like that by inviting executives. And many of these organizations either charge a small fee for that introductory course or may even do it for free, so that it serves as an advertisement for the larger service that you are capable of offering by whetting their appetite with a teaser program. Another example is you could invite the senior executives of your target companies to come here either as speakers, as resource people. So you begin to slowly establish the kind of relationship that can be strengthened and turned into a business opportunity. So these are all very commonly used techniques to help a service to be noticed, for them to get to know this a little bit more. And early stages are always difficult. If you take the US, for example, they will say 9 out of 10 startup efforts fail. I mean, that's proven statistics. So if 10 people start a business today, within the first year, the chances are 8 or 9 of them are going to fail and go out of business. So it's all the more important that we understand what we're trying to do. We've got all the right structures in place. We have the right answers clearly thought through. And then we also have a wholeheartedly accepted or agreed to how are we going to approach the market with the service that we're going to offer. all of that is going to be really important to line them up before we are ready to move forward. And then you can also be doing the traditional ways of advertising, such as sending a flyer to the right people, again, getting to know who are the decision makers in an organization for what it is that you're trying to do. In these days, people might even prefer a 2-3 minute video that's a teaser video that again captures their attention and sort of gets them to a level of wanting to know more about it. Will be some of the ways in which that can happen. I am going to pause here. I think we've been at this now for quite some time. Why don't we try to get into the Q&A session, question and answer. But if any of you thinks that I have not touched on one or two things that could be helpful, feel free to call that out. I'm happy to try to address that, or that can even come in the form of a question.
Professors, we kindly request you to make any inquiry. Do we have any questions from your domain? We can also ask questions. So Mr. Vincent A. Marin has so far spoken about the consultancy services. So what type of services we can give through traditional methods and modern methods. So as an individual, we can do something, or as a team, we can work on doing something. And we can also show our expertise by inviting the industry experts to our college, or going there by voluntary service there, or we can have by building up the relationship between industry people and our institution, slowly entering into the market. So and also nowadays, the computer from the level of from the domain of computer science, we can also be expert in analytical tools by trying to solve the problem of the industry people, because they'll be having lot of issues. Through our analytical tools and instruments, we can also try to take their data and solve the issues. That also can be done. So many ways so far Vincent A. Marin has covered from the starting point how we can slowly develop ourselves and become an expert in the field of consultancy and corporate training. I kindly request now, professors, you can also make it you can inquiry, or if you want to ask any question, put it in the chat box. Or you want to talk to the resource person, you can also unmute your mic and talk. This is over to the participants, please.
Excuse me, Father. Good evening, Father.
Madam, please talk. You can talk to the resource person. Yes.
Sure, Father. Thank you, Father. Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Mrs. Poomagal from the Department of Business Administration. Sir, regarding consultancy, like if you are giving consultancy, it should be for the corporate people, right? But in my case, I'm an expert in giving training for resume building and interview techniques for the students. So how can we put this for the corporate people? Because corporate people are already placed and already they are working in their own like respective organizations. So how this point can be put under consultancy services, or how we can proceed with this, sir? Kindly clarify me. Thank you.
Sure. Even though I talked in general terms about consulting to companies, a lot of what we're talking about can be applicable to nonprofit organizations, even to educational institutions if you wanted to go there. One of the things that I did not mention in my comments is no place, at least in the early stages, can be all things to all people. If you try to solve everybody's problem or be a consultant to everything on earth, it's almost a recipe for failure. So you may want to think through more about what is your core competency? Where can you be really recognized as an expert that you could render very credible, superior caliber of services that people will be willing to pay money for? So that's a comment that I should have made before. Now, coming back to Ms. Pumagal's question, we have to think creatively. Certainly, doing it for the students, it may be part of the educational service that you provide. You may not be able to charge any money to your own students, but you could begin to offer that service to people outside of your own college. So if they want to benefit from your services, you could be offering that as a service to very similar constituency student population outside of St. Joseph's College who could be paying for your services. In the corporate context, for example, if you were to go and look at, I don't know, to use a simple example, LinkedIn. I'm assuming many of you may be familiar with LinkedIn. You will see a wide variety of quality and exaggeration in some cases. In some cases, people who are really good are not able to really present themselves in a way that really brings out who they are. So you could potentially be working with a company that says, we could do a quick analysis of how your employees are seen from the outside world. And if you were to get a list of, 50 employees, you could quickly do a quick review of how they present themselves, and you might be able to offer a service out of that that says, we could come up with a different approach, a consistent approach that really tells a very positive story about not only each individual as an employee, but even the contribution they make to the company that might begin to highlight the company in a much more positive light. If I were to say that I am leading or I am transforming my company from the days of old to more business transformation to make it more digital enabled and so on, people are likely to read that and see, wow, this is really happening at Sidley. So we may want to engage them because we want the benefit of artificial intelligence enabled legal services, if that's what my profile says. So there are those kinds of opportunities. We may have to get a little more creative. If an organization does not have, for example, a marketing team or a marketing department, given your expertise in writing ability or conveying core messages through resumes, you may be able to translate that into what a marketing team would do for a company. So there are multiple ways of thinking about it, and let me leave it there. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other questions from any professors? Please, this is your time. Please make use of the time. Make use of the opportunity. Yes, Professor Savrimuthi is asking, I think. Professor Savrimuthi, sir?
Yeah, Father,
Yes,
good evening.
yes, sir. Please talk to the resource person, sir.
Respected Vincent, sir, good evening. Your talk was wonderful. You are the elder brother of Mr. Arumichelvam. I am very happy to see you after a long time. Your session was really wonderful and your deliverance was also excellent. And since you belong to the resident of America and you really performed well, I appreciate your knowledge, in-depth knowledge, and your valuable thoughts that you have shared with our staff members. I just have a very simple question. That is, what should be the content of the staff members, one who is going to be a consultant to corporates, companies. Second thing, how should, because is it that we should approach the company or the company will approach the professors of our college? And being ours is a self-financing college, and I think we feel a bit difficult in giving consultancy service to well-reputed companies and the employees of well-reputed companies. So you please throw some light upon that how can we equip ourselves, in what area we should exactly focus and become expert so that it will be really useful to the company employees. And then how to build up that rapport link between the company and ourselves, our organization, in terms of giving our valuable services. Because I no doubt that our professors are really talented in their own field. Definitely, say for example, the sector, banking sector, industry, commerce. I belong to Department of Commerce, and microbiology, biochemistry, chemistry, computer science. So these departments, staff members are really competent enough. But there is a lacking between what they have. We are not able to take it to the companies. The companies are not coming forward to us. The companies are not asking us for any consultancy. What should we do? How should we prepare? Please, just to throw some light upon it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I would ask you certainly to be first, Dr. Savrimuthu. Thank you very much for the question. It's a very thoughtful question and a very important one for the topic that we're talking about. I would ask all of you to be quite confident in your own capabilities, whether it is physics, chemistry, mathematics, commerce, computer science, whatever the field is. You are here doing what you're doing because you're good in it. Otherwise, I don't think St. Joseph's College will be keeping you around, and the students may not be thrilled with what you're doing itself. Where the opportunity comes from, I'll give you one more quick example from the McKinsey days. My famous example is we hired a PhD in Russian history. Many of us might say, what good is that for? But within 1 month, that person was consulting to one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And McKinsey does a little bit of preparation between the time the person got the PhD degree in Russian history to the time they're going to work with the client. So we may think about, can people in our business administration or business management program put together a very simple, this is the language of the business that you may want to be familiar with. So someone who is dealing with chemistry and physics may not necessarily be familiar with, I don't know, the cost structure of what goes on within a company. What does revenue versus gross profit versus net profit mean? So some of those basic understanding of what goes on in the business, the faculty members that are associated with those topics should be able to help with a course or some instructional material that's very helpful. All of you should also think about, as I said, the best impression opportunity. The skills needed to be a good consultant are, obviously, you need to know your topic. You need to be a good problem solver. If you look at any problem in life, whether it is personal or professional, sometimes they can begin to look like a mountain. How are we going to solve this? It's such a big issue. But the way you can dissect a problem will make it a series of smaller hills to climb rather than a big mountain that you may be thinking you need to climb at the same 1 day or 2 days. So to solve problems, you need to be able to dissect the problem and then scope them out in such a way that sometimes consultants will make a lot more money doing that than trying to deal with it as one big problem. Communication is extremely important. So subject matter expertise, problem-solving skills, communication, the ability to organize your content, analytical skills, whatever it is, whether it is numerically based challenge, like numbers that the company is struggling with, or employee morale, for example. How do you motivate the employees? There may not be much numbers involved, but trying to understand what are important to the employees that you can motivate them in such a way they will feel excited about the work that they're doing. They will want to come back again and again, wanting to do more of that work and give you the very best of themselves. So trying to do those kinds of things requires some analytical skills. Being able to, again, think through and creatively identify, in some cases, you may have to do a simple survey of the employees. Do we have the skills to develop a high quality survey? And how can we gather that information and analyze that information? That is where somebody from your statistics department or a mathematics department might be better than somebody in another department. So all of those are ways in which we should be preparing ourselves before we go to market with any of this. And also, I think you asked a question about how can we make them come to us. I think I touched on that in the earlier comments about either articles that you write, speeches you give, the invitations you extend for people to come and learn something at a very high level about a topic that would want them to know more about it from you, either in the form of an engagement or through other means. Over time, you could also be publishing thought content. If you come up with a series of articles that talk about, the top 5 problems to most companies or to smaller companies, and here are ways in which St. Joseph's College advisors can help you at the right level, that could even be a marketable, saleable piece of material. So
that's a nice question, sir. I think Professor Sarun, sir, I think
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Sir, thank you for asking a wonderful question, sir. Now I kindly request other staff members, if you have any queries, you can also ask some questions. It is your time, please. I think all the staff members who have interest in the consultancy services have joined today. So you can have some clarification now. Okay, Professor Vincent, sir, let me ask one question, sir.
sure, Father.
So in all the organizations, they will be conducting, definitely they will be conducting some sort of training programs for their employees. So I kindly request you what type of training programs they would be giving. So in your company, so what type of training programs? Because commerce people, these arts people, we can talk, we can be able to motivate the employees. You can so we can speak about the training and the morale and everything. So is there any chance in the organizations what type of training programs would you be giving? Those would be appropriate for the commerce faculty members, because you speak about analytical tools, that is related to computer science, and we need to have an expertise in the analyticals like R programming, SPSS tools. So many tools are there, and we need to learn a lot. We need to install it, and that needs a lot of hard work and effort. But for the commerce people, we can speak. Professor Sarimuthu, he will speak. He will speak nicely, and he can speak for hours. So we ask you, so whether those type of programs are there, what type of skills will you be teaching? Will you be expecting that? Clearly explain to us, sir.
Yeah, I mean, in an organization like ours, the range of training and development that goes on is very broad. On the one end, we ask everybody to go through mandatory training on cybersecurity topics. Hackers who are trying to come into the organization, sometimes I might get an email that is from somebody that I don't know. It may have a link in it. The email is worded in such a way that it says, click on this to get whatever thing that they're trying to promote. If I click on that email, that could do some damage to us, because sometimes those links can start downloading content onto our network or computer. And that technique is known as phishing. And in the process, they may ask for my network ID or password and so on. So I'm using that as an example of mandatory training, where we expect everyone to be aware of all the different ways in which people can be coming after us, and we could be falling victims to inadvertently giving the outsider access to something that they should not have access to. We've done that in classroom fashion. We've done that in video-based fashion. where everybody has to watch the video, answer some questions along the way, and we have ways of ensuring whether the person really went through the whole training or fast forwarded and whatnot. So those kinds of things. We do mental health training because the work we do is very taxing, very stressful.